Raamdeo Agrawal as well, who now joins in with his key takeaways from the budget statement. And Raamdeo, how are you going to rate this budget? Do you think it is a vision statement that is sufficient to bring India back to the prosperity cycle, much as was being hoped for?
It looks they have taken cognizance of all the things which are happening today. What is the ground reality? Because the journey, they have set the goal of $5 trillion by 24-25. So goal is there, but when you start the journey, the ground reality has to be taken into account. So the current NBFC crisis or stress on the revenue side of the budget. So all those things are there, and there's so many ideas from in every aspect of it. It's quite surprising that in such a short span, they have been able to put up, I would say, brilliant thought process, and it is very clear that government is thinking. And some of the things like, say, Aadhaar, PAN card is completely been made redundant, and Aadhaar has been given. So they are taking steps, and there are so many things in that. And I think the biggest thing is that strategic sale of PSUs. Second is that foreign borrowings, I mean, Indian bonds being floated in the global markets, which is the world is awash with the liquidity. So I think these are all proposals, so these are all intentions. What they will do is all in the execution. So I think budget paper is very good, and whether this achieves the objective or not, it all depends on the.
Raamdeo, let's also take a look at this from a market standpoint. Let's understand, if we take a look, and we've seen the reaction on the exchange today, probably process it over the weekend, but what would you say are the clear hits and misses this time around? More misses than hits, I think.
Yeah, so one of the surprise which was not there in the rumors or in the thought process was that 35% minimum float. We are living with 25%. And suddenly, to manage MSCI or global float requirements, they said the minimum requirement is now 25 to 35. So that pushes additional papers in the marketplace. So market was a bit surprised with that additional float, which is going to come in next 1 or 2 years. So that's one, I would not call it negative, but that's something which increases the supply of paper in the marketplace. In the long run, it is going to be positive. One is that. Second is that personal taxation, where steep hike is there between 3 to 7% for above 3 crore kind of income guys. But that doesn't directly impact the markets. So as far as the market is concerned, I saw the only negative is the additional supply of paper.
Raamdeo, you just spoke about raising the threshold of public holding in listed companies from 25 to 35%. I don't know how well the market is reading into this. So what is your assessment of this kind of a move?
I think so. I mean, for them, it is a good idea, and easier access to the lot of companies. So I would think that this is also a positive thing, particularly for the investor side. If I want to invest for next 5-10 years, I would like the more paper to be available and at more reasonable prices. So once the supply increases, that will open the floodgates for investors to come in.
All right. So what about, from the point of view of the agri side, Raamdeo, are you happy with what's been announced there? And also, given the SOPs that have been announced, in order to try and boost consumption, do you see perhaps sentiment picking up on the rural side?
I think the big thing is that the interest rate management. I mean, the monetary side is there is a contrast. We are paying the world's highest rate of interest on a sovereign borrowing, and world is at literally negative or zero kind of interest rate. So that leverage, at least budget is proposing to use, and that will bring down the interest rate, and that will also spur rural economy as well as the urban economy and economy as a whole. So I see that as a big move at the center of the entire budget.
And in just a short while from now, as you can see, that's the Finance Minister post the budget speech in Parliament, readying up for the press conference. We will be cutting across live to that to get you tidbits of that conversation. But in the meantime, Raamdeo, are you happy with the kind of provisions that have been made in the agri sector? There have been quite a few announcements to boost consumption. Do you think that that could actually translate into a spurt into the rural economy, given that sentiment over there hasn't been all that great so far? And can you also give us a sense as to what your outlook really is on the push to infra and road connectivity? Because for infrastructure, do you think that the thrust has been, there was a lot hinging on this sector. The question is, do you think that the government has done enough for infrastructure?
Looking at the current resource, base, the stress on building new roads and particularly the rural connectivity, I think almost 100% of the population will be connected by the all-weather roads, which does a lot to the village which gets connected. So I think I didn't see any lack of seriousness by the government on that aspect.
And finally, how are you assessing the efforts on the liquidity front and the shift of regulation to housing finance companies to the Reserve Bank?
That move was being speculated that regulatory part of it will go to RBI, which they pushed it now. Now the banking part, the NHB as a bank to lend to the HFCs at a concessional rate, that still stays with NHB. That's my understanding. And there it could be much more aggressive lending by them. So I think that's fine. I don't think that has any, major repercussions.
So sum it up for us, Raamdeo. On the whole, how do you feel the budget's fared in terms of steps to revive consumption? That was really another key area that we were focusing on this time around, given the kind of slowdown and sluggishness that we've been seeing. So how would you assess that?
So ultimately, everything depends on the consumption, and there I think the cost of credit flow, or one is the cost of credit and credit itself. So government is trying to address availability of credit and the cost of credit both. So I think indirectly they are trying to boost the demand only, but it is not by giving a fiscal incentive for consumption, but it is more by giving a monetary stimulus to the consumption.